So thank you, everybody. This is a very exciting event. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Noah Weber. My project is called the Sustainable Society Simulation. And in the words of one of my students, it might be the best way to learn social science concepts ever. All right? So I've got 5 minutes to see if I can convince you that that may, in fact, be true. The idea behind this simulation is I wanted to turn my 9th grade social studies course into sort of an interactive game from start to finish. And so students in my class assume the role of a leader of a fictional society in a world that they share with their classmates and their societies. And as we learn about new concepts in the course, they have to make decisions about their society based on what they've learned. So for example, we might start with geography. Yes, very exciting geography. We'll learn about human environmental interaction and the way the natural world and different environments can shape human life. And at the culmination of that unit, we say, all right, where do you want to start your society? And, students come up and they pick, and, oh, I wanted to be in Territory 6. How could you do that to me? And it's a very exciting day. And when it's all said and done, they have to reflect and sort of justify the choice of why do you want to live where you live based on what you learned about geography. And, make some predictions about how their life, their society may evolve based on the environment that they live in. From there they do cool things like make flags, right? They design a flag for their society. All this to kind of create some buy-in, right? This is their society. Every student creates their own. And, you could ask any one of my students what the sort of significance of their flag was, and they would tell you that the colors meant something and the symbols meant something to them. And all of this to me, and I've got a lot of quotes from my students in here, all of this to me is kind of the engagement piece, right? It's sort of the buy-in. It's something that made them excited. I get to, put down the worksheet and go be a prime minister or a president or a dictator or whatever you want. And you can see, the obligatory smiling student pics. Some of you may notice the young man in the front there. He was essentially the North Korea of our simulation. But it was actually really kind of important to have him in the conversation, right? I mean, North Korea is real, right? So it was very interesting to see the way their different societies evolved and whatnot. Here's another one. I just threw, double trouble. But ultimately, the novelty, the engagement, that's all fun and good, but it doesn't mean anything if there's not some real quality learning taking place. And I think this quote says a lot to me about why I see this simulation being a powerful idea. It doesn't just, you don't learn about these concepts on a flashcard and then leave them behind. They become a part of a decision-making process that you have to undertake. You have to really consider what it means to have a presidential republic, what it really means to be an absolute monarch, what it really means to have, lots of freedom in your society or to have a very strong military, the kind of trade-offs and sacrifices you have to make. And so as students start to make these decisions, they become very invested in how this will shape the outcomes of their societies. And it gets a little, sophisticated. The first year we did it, we were tracking all this stuff by hand. And the last year, I tried to develop sort of a spreadsheet model for tracking these different decisions they were making. This young lady, her country was called Russia. We learned about, say, government systems, and she makes these choices about her government. She's got a presidential republic, her government values education, she has open elections. One of her classmates may be a military junta where leadership is transitioned through inheritance only, and each of these choices affect these different indicators that you see at the top. Some of them are kind of, broad, like freedom and security and equality, which are still important conversations, especially in today's world as we see those trade-offs with NSA data surveillance and those types of things. But some of them are more real economic indicators, GDP, and their different spending priorities, right? She prioritized education. You can see she spends more on that, has higher literacy, etc. Okay, we have global rankings, right? So these students can compare their societies to one another and sort of understand the differences between the way their societies have evolved. And we ultimately culminate with a big United Nations, right? They come together and they advocate on behalf of their societies for different changes that can take place. The energy is an important element of this. So as they pick energy sources, they start to go for the cheap, dirty coal and oil, and they start getting pollution. And I say, you guys are at 300 units of pollution, and if we don't get that below 200, poor Tony's Island is going to sink into the ocean, and Billy's food production is going to be cut in half by a drought. And so they have to come together in the UN and troubleshoot these problems. They write these resolutions. It's very interdisciplinary, right? They worked on these in their English classes. Here was a nuclear non-proliferation agreement, which I'm sure this young man was adamantly trying to resist. Thankfully, peace did prevail in that scenario. And they get into it. They, shaking hands on deals, signing it. And these are the quotes that to me say a lot about the power of this. So many parents have told me, my student won't stop arguing at the dinner table about his latest whatever decision. So it's very exciting, and I look forward to some of the ways you might help me grow it as you see here.